There's a hard truth that flips everything you've been taught about freedom. Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want, but that kind of freedom is a trap. It leaves you scattered, exhausted, and enslaved to impulses you can't control. Real freedom, the kind that gives you power over your life, comes only after discipline. Every dream you have, every goal you chase, every future you imagine depends on one thing: your ability to master yourself. Discipline isn't punishment. It's the key that unlocks choice, strength, and peace. Stay with me, because this paradox will change everything. In this audiobook, you'll uncover why the habits you've been avoiding are the very tools that will set you free. You'll learn how self-control sharpens your focus, protects your time, and gives you the power to rise above distractions and temptations. You'll see how structure doesn't cage you. It frees you from chaos, anxiety, and wasted potential. And most importantly, you'll discover how discipline transforms not just what you achieve, but how deeply you feel peace, confidence, and purpose in your everyday life. So let me ask you, are you ready to face the discipline paradox and finally discover why freedom only comes after self-control? Let's dive in. Chapter 1: The Hidden Truth About Discipline. Why self-control feels like restriction but leads to liberation. At first glance, self-control feels like the exact opposite of freedom. It feels like saying no when you want to say yes. Like walking away from dessert when every part of you is craving that sweet bite. Like choosing to work when everyone else is out having fun. In the moment, it feels like a cage. Restriction. Deprivation. The part of you that wants comfort screams, "Why can't I just do what I want?" And that's where most people give up, because they think self-control is stealing joy. But here's the twist. What feels like limitation today is actually building the foundation for your liberation tomorrow. Think about it. If you can't say no to impulses, then who's really in charge? You or your cravings? If you can't resist the pull of distraction, are you free? Or are you chained to every notification, every urge, every shiny thing that steals your attention? The irony is, what looks like freedom in the moment, doing whatever you feel like, slowly enslaves you. It locks you in cycles you can't escape. Scrolling for hours, eating out of boredom, saying yes to things that drain you, they all feel free in the moment, but they rob you of choice later. Now flip it. Picture yourself practicing self-control, not as punishment, but as training. Every time you say no to something small, you're proving to yourself that you're stronger than your impulses. Every time you choose the harder but better path, you're expanding your capacity for freedom. You're saying, "I decide where my energy goes. I choose my direction." And when you live like that, suddenly life feels lighter. You have options. You have control. You can build, create, and chase the future you want without being dragged back by bad habits or weak decisions. The truth is, self-control is not a prison. It's the doorway out of the prison you've been living in, the prison of being controlled by urges, emotions, and distractions. Yes, it feels uncomfortable at first. Yes, it feels like restriction. But what it actually gives you is power. And power, real power, is the most liberating thing you'll ever experience. So the next time discipline feels heavy, remind yourself, this is not about denial, it's about direction. It's not about losing freedom, it's about finally earning it. And that shift, once you feel it, changes everything. The illusion of freedom, how indulgence quietly chains you. Indulgence often disguises itself as freedom. It whispers, "You deserve this. Do what feels good." Life is short, and in the moment it's so easy to believe it. Ordering that extra dessert, binging one more episode, scrolling until 2 a.m., spending money you don't have. It all feels like you're taking control, doing what you want without rules. But here's the hidden cost. Every yes to impulse is also a quiet no to your long-term freedom. What feels like liberty today often turns into chains tomorrow. Think about it. Staying up all night feels like freedom. Nobody's telling you when to sleep. but the next morning, your body pays. You're tired, distracted, dragging yourself through the day. Is that freedom, or is it slavery to fatigue? Eating whatever you want feels like freedom. No diets, no restrictions, just pleasure. But when your health suffers, when your body starts limiting what you can do, is that really freedom? Even financially, indulging in every want feels freeing until the bills stack up and debt dictates your choices. Suddenly, what once felt like control reveals itself as control over you. This is the trap. Indulgence feels good in the moment because it hides the long-term cost. It gives you instant satisfaction while quietly chaining you to cycles that rob you of real choice. It's like walking into a room with velvet walls, soft and comforting, only to realize later that the door has locked behind you. What you thought was pleasure was actually the start of a prison. True freedom doesn't come from doing everything you feel like. It comes from being able to say no when saying yes would harm you. It comes from knowing that you're in control, not your cravings, not your emotions, not the pressure around you. Real freedom is walking into tomorrow with energy, clarity, and options, not regrets, hangovers, or consequences holding you down. Here's the paradox. The discipline you resist today is the very thing that gives you the life you want tomorrow. The indulgence you crave now is often the weight that keeps you stuck. So the question becomes, are you choosing the illusion of freedom or the reality of it? Because one gives you a rush for a moment, and the other gives you a life you're proud of forever. Discipline is the gateway to choose, not the enemy of it. Most people hear the word discipline and instantly think of rules, limits, and saying no to the fun parts of life. It feels heavy, like a prison guard keeping you from what you really want. But here's the twist. Discipline isn't your enemy. It's actually the key that unlocks more choices, more opportunities, more freedom than you can imagine. It's not about taking life away from you. It's about giving life back to you. Think about it. When you practice financial discipline, budgeting, saving, resisting the urge to buy everything you see, you don't lose freedom. You gain it. Suddenly, you have the choice to invest in your dreams, to travel when you want, to walk away from toxic jobs because you're not chained by debt. Discipline turns money from something that controls you into something you control. Without it, every impulse purchase steals tomorrow's options from your hands. The same goes for health. Discipline in what you eat, how often you move, how much you rest. It doesn't limit you, it expands you. A strong, energized body gives you the choice to run with your kids, to hike mountains, to dance without getting winded, to live without constant doctor visits or medication. Compare that to indulgence, where the freedom of eating whatever you want can end in a body that limits you at every step. Which one sounds like real freedom? Even with time, discipline creates options. Waking up early, planning your day, setting aside distractions. It may feel strict at first, but when you finish your priorities early and still have hours left for what you truly enjoy, you realize that discipline gave you more time, not less. Meanwhile, those who live without structure often end the day wondering where their hours went, trapped in the guilt of wasted time. Here's the paradox. Every small act of discipline looks like a door closing, but behind it is an entire hallway of doors opening. The ability to say no to what harms you is what lets you say yes to what empowers you. Discipline doesn't shrink your world, it expands it. It puts you in the driver's seat instead of letting impulses, cravings, or circumstances decide for you. So maybe the real enemy isn't discipline at all. Maybe the real enemy is the lie that freedom comes from doing whatever you want, whenever you want. Because the truth is, real choice only belongs to the disciplined. And once you taste that kind of freedom, you'll never mistake discipline for chains again. Chapter 2. Building Self-Mastery in Daily Life. Habits that strengthen your willpower without burning you out. Willpower often feels like this huge, heavy muscle you have to drag around with you. You picture yourself gritting your teeth, forcing yourself to say no to temptation, pushing through exhaustion, and fighting battles all day long. But here's the truth. Real willpower doesn't come from fighting harder, it comes from building habits that make strength almost automatic. Think of it like setting up your environment, your mind and your routines in a way that helps you make strong choices without draining your energy every time. Imagine waking up in the morning and knowing you're going to the gym. If you have to decide right then and there, should I go today? Do I feel like it? Do I have the energy? You're already negotiating with yourself. That negotiation drains willpower before you've even started. But if you set your workout clothes by your bed the night before, fill your water bottle, and commit to just putting on your shoes, suddenly it's less of a fight. That's the trick. Tiny habits remove the debate, so your willpower is saved for bigger battles. Even something as simple as planning your meals ahead of time strengthens your willpower. Because when you're hungry and standing in front of the fridge, you're vulnerable. The sugary, easy option looks tempting, and resisting it takes energy. But if the healthy choice is already prepped and ready, you don't have to wrestle with yourself. You just eat, and you feel good about it afterward. Willpower grows when the good choice is the easy choice. And then there's the underrated habit of rest. Too many people think willpower is about pushing non-stop, but burnout kills discipline faster than temptation ever could. A tired mind gives in easily, but when you prioritize sleep, even naps, or small pauses in your day, you protect the mental energy that fuels your self-control. Willpower isn't just about saying no, it's about having the strength to say yes to what matters, and you can't do that if you're running on fumes. Here's another simple but powerful one. Celebrate small wins. Every time you acknowledge that you resisted a craving, finished a task, or followed through on a promise to yourself, you wire your brain to see discipline as rewarding. It stops being this heavy burden and starts being a source of pride, and pride builds momentum. You're no longer trying to force yourself forward. You actually want to keep going. The beauty of habits is that once they're built, they carry you. They protect your willpower like a shield so you're not burning it out on trivial choices. You don't have to think about brushing your teeth or locking the door when you leave your house. It's automatic. The same can be true for saving money, exercising, working on your goals, or saying no to distractions. At first, it feels intentional, even clumsy, but over time, it becomes who you are. The real secret isn't to become a warrior who fights temptation all day. It's to become a person who doesn't even need to fight as often, because your habits are carrying the weight. And when your habits are designed to strengthen you, every day becomes a little easier, every decision a little clearer, and your willpower becomes less about struggle and more about flow. That's how you get stronger without burning out, not by fighting harder, but by making strength your default setting. The small, daily disciplines that compound into major results. It's usually not the big, dramatic moments that change your life. It's the little things you do when nobody's watching, the choices so small they almost feel invisible. Most people underestimate them because they don't give you fireworks or instant transformation. But that's exactly the secret. It's the daily disciplines, the quiet habits, the tiny decisions stacked day after day that eventually create results so big they look like magic to everyone else. Think about planting a seed. On the first day you water it and nothing happens. Second day, still nothing. A week later you might see the tiniest sprout. If you quit watering because you think it's too small, you'll never see the tree it was destined to become. That's how small daily disciplines work. They're boring in the moment, almost too simple to matter, but over time they grow into something unstoppable. Take reading, for example. 10 minutes a day feels like nothing. You close the book and life looks the same. But keep doing it every day for a year, and suddenly you've read several books, absorbed hundreds of new ideas, and your mind thinks differently. Or fitness. One workout doesn't change your body, but one workout done consistently over months reshapes your energy, your confidence, even how you carry yourself. The tricky part is that small disciplines are easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. It's easy to drink a glass of water instead of soda, but it's just as easy to say, one soda won't hurt. It's easy to write down 3 things you're grateful for before bed, but it's just as easy to scroll on your phone and skip it. The difference between people who transform their lives and people who stay stuck often comes down to those small, almost invisible choices repeated daily. Here's the powerful part. These tiny disciplines don't just add up, they compound. Like interest in a bank account, the benefits multiply. Waking up early one day just makes you a little tired. Waking up early every day trains your brain, gives you time for yourself, and shifts your entire life rhythm. Saving a little money once doesn't matter. Saving a little money every week builds security, opportunity, and eventually freedom. The compounding effect is where the magic happens. But here's what makes it emotional. When you stick to small disciplines, you're not just building results, you're building trust with yourself. Every time you keep a promise, no matter how small, you're telling yourself, I can count on me. And that feeling? That's priceless. Because the opposite, breaking those promises, quietly erodes your confidence. You start to believe you're someone who can't follow through. That's why the little daily wins matter so much more than they seem. And the truth is, the world won't clap for your small daily disciplines. Nobody's cheering when you go for a run, skip dessert, write a page of your book, or choose to study instead of binge watch. But months from now, people will look at you and wonder how you changed so much, how you suddenly became disciplined, successful, or confident. They won't realize it was all built in the silence of your daily choices. So if you're waiting for a huge leap, a massive breakthrough, or some life-changing moment, maybe you're missing the real secret. The real breakthrough is hidden in your routine. It's in how you start your morning, how you respond when you're tired, how you treat those tiny decisions that feel insignificant. That's where freedom is built. That's where growth lives. Major results don't come from one big action. They come from thousands of small disciplines, done consistently, patiently, and intentionally. And when you look back, you'll realize those little things weren't little at all. They were everything, turning consistency into an unstoppable force. Consistency is the quiet force most people overlook. It doesn't shout, it doesn't dazzle, it doesn't give you that instant rush of excitement like a new idea or a sudden burst of motivation. But it's the one thing that turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. The truth is, motivation will get you started, but consistency is what keeps you moving when the excitement fades, when nobody's clapping, when it feels like the progress is too small to matter. Think about it. How many times have you felt fired up to change your life? Maybe you started a workout routine, a new project, a diet, a business idea. For the first few days, you were unstoppable, but then the energy dipped, distractions crept in, and suddenly, the thing you were so excited about faded into the background. That's the trap. Motivation is temporary, but consistency, that's the game changer. It's not about doing something once in a spectacular way. It's about showing up again and again, until the small steps you take transform into massive leaps forward. Imagine a drop of water falling on a stone. One drop does nothing, 10 drops still nothing. But after thousands of drops, that same water carves a path straight through solid rock. That's consistency. It looks weak in the moment, but over time it becomes an unstoppable force, shaping outcomes, transforming lives, and building momentum that can't be denied. And here's the part that's easy to miss. Consistency doesn't require perfection. People get trapped thinking they have to do it flawlessly every single day, or it doesn't count. That's not true. Consistency is about coming back, even after you slip. It's about being reliable to your goals more often than not. Missing a day doesn't break you. Quitting does. The power comes not from being perfect, but from refusing to stay down when you stumble. Think about athletes. It's not the single intense training session that makes them great. It's the years of disciplined practice, the daily repetitions, the drills done when nobody is watching. Think about writers. It's not one night of inspiration that creates a novel. It's the habit of writing a little every day, even on the days when the words don't flow. Think about saving money. One deposit won't change your life, but the act of consistently putting something aside, no matter how small, builds a future you couldn't imagine when you started. Consistency builds something even more powerful than results: identity. Every time you show up, you're casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. When you choose to go for that run, even when you don't feel like it, you're not just exercising, you're reinforcing the identity of someone who values health. When you sit down to work on your goals instead of scrolling aimlessly, you're proving to yourself that you're disciplined, that you're serious about building the life you want. Over time, that identity becomes unshakable. And once you believe in that identity, your actions naturally align with it. That's why consistency feels unstoppable. It doesn't just create results, it transforms who you are. But here's where it gets emotional. Consistency builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. When you keep showing up, you start to believe your own word. You know that when you commit to something, you'll follow through. That kind of self-trust is rare, and it radiates confidence. People around you notice it. Opportunities start to come because people can rely on you, and most importantly, you start to rely on you. That's the foundation of real power. The world often glorifies the big wins, the overnight success stories, the viral moments, the dramatic transformations. But the truth behind every one of those stories is consistency. Behind every overnight success is someone who worked quietly, consistently, for years, without applause. The spotlight only shines when the compound effect of consistency finally explodes into visible results. So the question becomes, are you willing to keep showing up when it feels boring, when progress is invisible, when the temptation to quit is strong? Because those moments are where consistency is forged. That's where the gap widens between those who dream and those who achieve. And here's the irony. Once you stay consistent long enough, something magical happens. Momentum kicks in. What once felt hard becomes natural. What once felt forced becomes automatic. And the very thing you struggled to maintain starts to carry you forward. Consistency becomes a force of its own, bigger than your doubts, stronger than your excuses, more reliable than your mood. At that point, stopping becomes harder than continuing. That's when you know you've turned consistency into an unstoppable force. Not because you were the most talented, not because you had the perfect plan, but because you simply refused to quit showing up. Day by day, drop by drop, choice by choice, you became unstoppable. Chapter 3. The Paradox of Freedom Through Structure. Why boundaries expand possibilities instead of shrinking them. Most people hear the word boundaries and immediately think of walls, limits, or restrictions. It sounds like saying no, like shutting doors, like cutting yourself off from opportunities. But here's the paradox that most don't see. Boundaries aren't about shrinking your life. They're about expanding it. Boundaries don't take away your freedom. They give you the clarity and energy to actually live fully on your own terms. Think about your phone battery. If you leave every app open, notifications buzzing non-stop, screen brightness turned all the way up, what happens? The phone dies before the day is half over. But if you manage it wisely, close out the unnecessary apps, dim what doesn't matter, protect your energy, it lasts, it performs better, and it's always ready when you need it most. Boundaries are the same thing for your life. Without them, you're drained, scattered, and overwhelmed. With them, you're focused, energized, and free to invest your time where it truly matters. Let's be honest. How many times have you said yes when every part of you wanted to say no? Maybe it was helping someone who never returns the favor. Maybe it was agreeing to a project at work when you were already drowning. Maybe it was letting people pull you into drama you had no interest in. And every time you said yes to those things, you were really saying no to yourself. No to your goals, your peace, your health, your future. Boundaries change that. They flip the script so that you're not just reacting to life. You're intentionally choosing what fits into your vision and what doesn't. And here's the beautiful twist. When you start setting boundaries, Life doesn't get smaller, it gets bigger. Why? Because you stop wasting energy on the meaningless. Suddenly you have room for growth, for creativity, for relationships that actually uplift you instead of drain you. Saying no to the wrong things creates space to say a louder yes to the right ones. Boundaries don't shrink possibilities. They filter them so you're left with the ones that actually expand your life. Think about a river with no banks. Without boundaries, the water spills everywhere. It's messy, shallow, and powerless. But when a river has strong banks guiding it, that same water becomes powerful enough to carve valleys, spin turbines, and create life. Boundaries are those banks for your energy and your focus. They don't stop you from flowing. They give your flow direction, purpose, and power. And here's something most people don't expect. Boundaries don't just protect you from others, they also protect others from you. When you're clear about what you can and can't give, people learn to respect you more. Your relationships deepen because they're built on honesty, not resentment. You stop overextending, and suddenly you show up as your best self, present, authentic, energized. The people who truly care about you don't just accept your boundaries. They appreciate them because they get a stronger, more reliable version of you. Of course, at first, setting boundaries feels uncomfortable. It feels like rejection, like you're letting people down. And yes, some people won't like it, especially if they've benefited from you having none. But here's the secret. The people who walk away when you set boundaries are the ones who were never for you in the first place. Boundaries don't push away the right people, they reveal them. And the ones who stay, those are your people. That's where connection grows, where trust deepens, where possibilities multiply. It's easy to believe that saying yes to everything will get you further, make you more liked, open more doors. But the truth is, without boundaries, you spread yourself so thin that you never truly excel at anything. Boundaries allow you to go deep instead of wide, to master skills, to nurture relationships, to build something meaningful. They create the focus that turns scattered energy into extraordinary results. So, if you've been afraid to set boundaries because you think they'll make your world smaller, flip that belief. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors. They are the choices that protect your time, energy, and vision so that you can step into a life that is richer, freer, and more aligned with who you truly are. Without boundaries, you survive. With them, you thrive. And maybe the most freeing part of all is this. When you finally set boundaries, you prove to yourself that your worth is not up for negotiation. You stop living for approval and start living for alignment. That's when possibilities open wide. Because the truth is, life doesn't reward the people who say yes to everything. It rewards the people who are brave enough to say yes to the right things and no to the rest. How self-control creates space for true creativity and joy. Most people think of self-control as something stiff, rigid, or even joyless. It's the image of forcing yourself to say no to dessert, dragging yourself out of bed for that workout, or holding back when every part of you wants to indulge. It feels like discipline is about restriction, about shutting doors, about living smaller. But here's the truth no one tells you. Self-control isn't about cutting yourself off from life. It's about creating the space where real life, real creativity, and real joy can actually breathe. Think about the last time you felt truly alive in the moment. Maybe it was when you got lost in a hobby, painting, writing, playing music, cooking, or when you laughed so hard with someone that the rest of the world melted away. Those moments feel expansive, free, full of joy. But notice something. They rarely happen when you're scattered, overstimulated, or stretched thin. They show up when there's room, when you've cleared the noise, when you're present enough to let them in. And that's what self-control does. It clears the clutter, the temptations, the distractions, so that joy and creativity have a chance to show up. Imagine an artist trying to paint while 10 people are shouting in their ear. Their phone keeps buzzing and the table is piled high with junk. Could they create anything meaningful? Probably not. Creativity needs space, mental space, emotional space, and time that isn't hijacked by impulses. Self-control is what clears the room. It's what says, no, I don't need to check my phone for the 10th time. No, I don't need to binge another show when I'm exhausted. No, I don't need to let everyone else's urgency become mine. By saying no to the noise, you're really saying yes to the flow of your own mind. And here's where the paradox kicks in. When you live without self-control, it feels like freedom in the moment, but it ends up being a trap. You say yes to every craving, every distraction, every impulse, but in doing so, you're constantly pulled away from the things that bring deeper joy. You end up stuck in cycles of instant gratification, scrolling, snacking, procrastinating, that feel good for a second but leave you empty. On the other hand, when you practice self-control, you delay the small dopamine hits so you can tap into something bigger, richer, longer lasting. That's where creativity thrives. That's where true joy lives. Think about music. Every great song isn't just sound, it's sound and silence. The pauses, the rests, the spaces in between are what make the notes powerful. Without restraint, music would just be noise. Your life works the same way. Self-control is the rest note, the pause, the decision to hold back, so that when you do act, it resonates. Without it, your days turn into noise. With it, your days become music. And let's be real, self-control isn't about being harsh with yourself. It's about being intentional. It's choosing to put your phone down so you can actually hear your own thoughts. It's saying no to commitments that drain you so you have the energy to pour into something that lights you up. It's going to bed at a decent time so you wake up with the energy to create, to laugh, to fully experience life. These small acts of self-control open the door for joy and creativity to walk right in. The irony is, the very people who resist self-control because they think it kills joy are the ones who end up most restless, most anxious, most disconnected from themselves. And the people who embrace it, the ones who set boundaries, who practice discipline, who control their impulses, those are the ones who laugh deeper, love stronger, and create work that leaves a mark. Because joy doesn't come from doing everything you want in the moment. It comes from building a life where the best things have room to grow. So the next time you think of self-control as the enemy of fun, flip the script. It's not the handcuffs on your life. It's the key. The key that unlocks your focus, your peace, your creativity, your joy. It's not about saying no for the sake of no. It's about saying no to what doesn't serve you so you can say a bold, unapologetic yes to the life that does. Because in the end, self-control isn't the death of joy, it's the foundation of it. Without it, joy gets drowned out by noise. With it, joy finally has space to bloom. And when you live from that space, every day feels less like survival and more like art. Living the paradox, the calm confidence of a disciplined life. There is something rare about a person who walks into a room with calm confidence. Not the loud, boastful kind that needs attention to survive, but the quiet steadiness that makes you think. They know who they are, and nothing can shake them. That kind of presence doesn't just happen. It's not luck, it's not a gift from birth. It's the product of a disciplined life. And here's the paradox most people don't see. Discipline, the very thing people run from because they think it steals freedom, is the exact thing that creates this unshakable calm. Think about the times in your own life when you've felt scattered, chasing deadlines at the last minute, trying to juggle too much, constantly reacting instead of leading. In those moments, there's no calm. There's panic, stress, overwhelm. You can't enjoy the moment because you're buried in the consequences of yesterday's choices. But when you practice discipline, Whether it's sticking to your routines, protecting your energy, saying no to distractions, you create a different rhythm. Suddenly, instead of being a victim of chaos, you're in control. And control, real control, feels like peace. Here's what's fascinating. People often confuse discipline with rigidity, as if living with structure means living with chains. But ask anyone who's built a strong body, a thriving business, or even just a more intentional daily routine, and they'll tell you the opposite. Discipline isn't a cage, it's a compass. It points you toward what matters and frees you from the endless noise of what doesn't. When you already know your path, when you already know your priorities, there's no need to scramble or second guess. That clarity creates calm, and that calm reads as confidence. Picture this. Two people walk into a meeting. One spent the night before scrolling aimlessly, slept late, and rushed in flustered, already behind. The other followed their evening routine, slept well, prepared, and arrived grounded. Who radiates confidence? It's not even about who's smarter. It's about who's more disciplined. Discipline sets the stage so that your natural talents, your personality, your creativity can actually shine without being smothered by chaos. And here's the paradox in its purest form. When you first start practicing discipline, it feels tough, almost like you're cutting pieces of your life away. Less indulgence, less instant gratification, fewer distractions. But over time, you realize you're not losing anything. You're gaining everything. You're gaining time because you're not wasting it on what doesn't matter. You're gaining energy because you're not drained by constant decision fatigue. You're gaining freedom because you're not chained to impulses or other people's demands. And that's when discipline transforms from something heavy into something liberating. Confidence isn't built on hype or motivation that fades by the end of the day. It's built on keeping promises to yourself over and over again. It's built on knowing that when life tests you, you can trust yourself to follow through. And nothing builds that kind of trust like discipline. It's like stacking bricks. Each small act of self-control, each moment you resist the easy path, each time you choose what serves your future over what tempts you now, you add another layer of strength to who you are. And soon, you're not trying to project confidence. You just are confident because you've built a foundation no one else can shake. The calm confidence of a disciplined life doesn't shout, it doesn't need to. It's the steady presence that draws people in without trying. It's the sense of peace that lets you handle storms without breaking. It's the inner knowing that no matter what happens, you're prepared, you're capable, and you're in control of yourself. And that's a kind of power that indulgence, distraction, and chaos can never give you. So when you hear discipline, don't picture restriction, picture freedom. Picture the version of yourself who wakes up with energy, who moves through the day with clarity, who ends the night with peace of mind because they lived with intention. That's not punishment, that's power. And it's available to you the moment you stop fighting discipline and start embracing it as the paradox it really is, the doorway to the calm, confident, unstoppable version of yourself.